News Radio 78, WBBM, Chicago.
The time is 10:30.
The CBS Radio Mystery Theater presents... Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall, your host for another story of the macabre. The word itself, macabre, suggests the unusual, the bizarre, the unexplainable. And the source of these stories of the macabre is you. Because each of us has been afraid of something, real or imagined, awake or in a nightmare. Did Laura Veer, who lives in Chatham on Cape Cod, imagine what happened to her? Or was it a real experience? Her husband, Will, middle-aged and semi-retired, was skeptical.
Laura, it just doesn't make sense.
All the same, it's true, Will. I know exactly what those bequests are. What Min will leave for her daughter and a distant cousin, me, Dr. Regan.
How could you possibly know that?
She was here and she told me.
She could not have been here. And you know that as well as I.
Our mystery drama, The Red Circle, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Roy Windsor and stars Ann Petoniak and Robert Dryden. It is sponsored in part by Buick Motor Division and General Electric Citizen Band radios. I'll be back shortly with Act One.
Once upon a time, there was a couple who needed a car.
Honey, we need a car.
My shoes have had it.
They wanted a sensible car because they were sensible people.
We're sensible people.
We save strings.
We buy bonds.
We brush regularly.
We hang up our clothes.
But they also wanted a car that was fun because they liked a good time.
Anybody for a quick game of fish?
Oh, cold glass of milk and you're on.
Well, knowing how hard it is to find a car that is both sensible and fun, they went straight to their Buick dealer, whom they knew to be a most reliable source for such cars.
Say, you wouldn't have...
Of course he would.
At which point, the dealer introduced them to the Buick Skylark. When the V6 engine, the compact size, and the ample room were pointed out, they were amazed at how much sense the Skylark made.
Isn't that amazing?
I am bowled over.
And when the famous Buick ride, comfort, and road manners came to their attention, they were quick to see how much fun a Skylark could be.
Gee, that looks like fun.
Oh, you're not just whistling.
They were so overjoyed with their Skylark, they stopped the car, ran up to the first person they saw, hugged him, and kissed him.
I'm going to hug him.
I'm going to kiss him.
Which might not make much sense, but it certainly was fun.
What do you look for in a mystery novel? Thrills, suspense, action, believable characters? Well, that's just what you'll find in the bestsellers by Arthur Mayling, particularly his new one, Schroeder's Game. If you've read any of Arthur Mayling's suspense novels, Rip-Off, Ding Dong, or Loophole, for example, you'll know why he's rated as one of today's most popular mystery authors. Schroeder's Game, just published as a Harper novel of suspense, is a very exciting story about embezzlement, the intrigues of the financial world, and murder. The stockbrokers that readers first met in Rip-Off are back in Schroeder's Game, this time confronted with a pair of brutal killings and a smooth tycoon's huge scheme to defraud hospitals on medical claims. You'll find yourself caught up in tangled webs of phony records, high finance, and homicide. You'll be gripped from first page to last as Mayling takes you from the glamour of Wall Street to the dark alleys of one of America's most crime-ridden cities. Ask your bookseller this week for a copy of Schroeder's Game, the new Harper novel of suspense by Arthur Mayling. It's a winner.
Conversation, you will admit, is usually limited to the exchange of ordinary information. We talk about the weather and rising prices, an invitation, children, ordinary everyday subjects talked over and over again without much change. Then something unusual happens. Someone you know is a lottery winner, or your son or daughter comes home and says, "I'm married." Or out of the blue, you open the door, and there, to your surprise, is a friend you haven't seen for years. And that's what's happening to Laura Veer.
Yes, coming.
Hello, Laura.
Why, Min Wilkins, I have never been so surprised.
It's been several years.
Come on in, come in. Oh, now, let me look at you. Why are you here? Are you still living in Lowell? How's Carol?
Years. This room's the same, and you ain't changed, Laura. I always liked the room. Thought about you a lot.
Oh, I wrote you several times after you and Clyde left the cave.
I know. I was never much at writing.
Well, when I didn't hear from you, I was afraid that somehow I'd offended you.
Oh, no, nothing like that. No. We were friends from when we were girls, and even after you married Will, and I married Clyde, whom Will didn't care much for.
Well, we remain friends. Tell me, what brought you back to Chatham? Is Clyde with you?
Oh, no, I'm all alone.
Are you staying? Because if you are...
No, I'm not staying. I just came to see you.
Oh, Min, I am so happy that you did.
And Chatham, the lighthouse and the beach and the school and, just the town and how I remember it.
How's Carol?
Married to a nice man named Thompson, which was good to get her away from that house.
Oh, does that mean that Clyde and...
Oh, Clyde is cruel, Laura.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Is he still working at that...
No, he went to Boston because he found work. But then he took another job, and now he's kind of a handyman.
Min, I'll prepare some tea.
Oh, no, please. You like my suit?
Oh, yes, it's very nice. Checks are very becoming.
Carol bought it for me.
She lives in Lowell?
No, in Boston. She's never in Lowell. Will you come to visit me, Laura? It's a nice town.
Oh, sure. Of course.
Next week?
Well, I suppose I can get away. Is it urgent? Is something the matter, Min?
Well, it's the bequests and that sideboard from my mother you always liked.
Pardon me? I don't understand.
Well, the sideboard is for you, and the dining room set, which is antique, goes to Carol, along with her old bedroom furniture and the poster bed.
Min!
My silver, which you and Will gave me, and I want my sister to have that. And then there's a cedar chest. And it goes to the neighbor woman who is the widow, because...
Min, please stop this talk. Bequests. Now, what kind of talk is that? My goodness, we're the same age, and I'm not thinking about dying at 54. Now, you just stop. You just give me the shivers.
It's all in my will.
All right. In 20 years or so, those bequests will be made.
I hid it.
Well, wasn't that foolish?
Oh, no. It's under a lot of money, and it's what my father gave me and what I saved.
Now, Clyde doesn't know about it.
Oh, no. Only me and you.
Min, I think you should confide in Carol.
You'll find it and take care of everything, Laura.
Min, just let me prepare some tea.
No, thank you. You do like my suit.
Oh, yes, very much. The jacket isn't too tight, is it? Does it rub against your throat?
No. Oh, because of the red circle, you mean?
Yes.
Well, it's an allergy made the circle on the neck.
An allergy to what?
Well, I guess you might say gold.
Min talked in a strange way, Will, and all she could talk about were bequests. It was spooky.
Min? Oh, I always found her pretty down to earth. Even after she married that good-for-nothing Clyde Wilkins. For your sake, I was sorry Min moved away, but nobody misses Clyde. Silent, disagreeable man. Is he working?
As a carpenter. She wants me to visit her next week.
What for? Next week?
Oh, for old time's sake. You know, I don't really want to go, but I feel obligated. Can you drive me up?
Why not? Real estate's slow right now, and Betty can handle anything that comes in. Sure. You name the day, I'll loaf around Cambridge.
Oh, thank you, Will. I really don't want to go.
Her visit upset you, didn't it?
Talk about death is always gloomy, telling me who gets what when she dies and where she's hidden her will, the money.
What? What's that?
I don't want to bore you with all that she said.
No, I'd like to hear. I'm not so sure you should pay her a visit. She sounds a little crazy.
Oh, wait till you hear.
By the way, how'd she get here? Drive?
No. I said goodbye and walked out with her, but there was no car in the driveway.
Bus? Oh, there are not many scheduled trips from Boston, Laura. She must have come by car.
Well, isn't that funny? I have no idea how she got here.
Laura,
Yes, Will?
I work all day.
Oh, come on. You played golf this afternoon, Will. Don't try to fool me. Now, let me see the mail.
And you took a nap.
And why not? I missed the postman, I admit, but it's mostly junk mail. Well, look here. Look at the return address.
Carol Thompson. Who's she?
Min's married daughter.
Oh, sure. Carol. And married. She was a nice girl. Well, what does Carol have to say?
Probably thanking me for her mother's visit. Min's no writer. Let me see. Dear Mrs. Vere, as a dear friend of my mother, she would want you to know. Will,
What's the matter?
read. Read what Carol says.
Friend of mother's would want... You know that she died on the 2nd of the month and was buried privately 2 days later. I am married and... Wait a minute. Min Wilkins died on the 2nd of the month, and this is the 15th, and you say she visited you 3 days ago?
She did. She did. She sat right here in this living room, and she remembered liking it and talked about bequests. Oh, Will.
Now, take it easy. Catch your breath.
You don't believe me.
Well, how can I?
But, Will, it's true.
No, it can't be true, Laura. The woman was dead and buried 3 weeks ago. She couldn't have called on you just 3 days ago.
But she did. I can see her now sitting right there in that chair in her new check suit.
You dreamed it.
No, Will, I did not.
Darling, it had to be a dream or a nightmare or something.
Will, I could see her sitting there and talking in an odd way, preoccupied with death. I swear it's true, Will.
Now, make sense, Laura. What you're saying is impossible to believe.
Will, oh, my God, what am I going to do?
You're going to forget the whole thing. The bequests, Carol, Clyde Wilkins, all of it. Oh, we'd better talk to Lem Regan.
I don't need a doctor.
Okay, then forget what you dreamed.
I didn't dream it. Min Wilkins was here.
Well, that takes care of the letter from Min's daughter.
Will, I need her address.
No. Now, please. I want to have you writing and upsetting her. This closes the subject. Now, let's forget it.
Carol,
Yes? What is it, Father?
who telephoned? I have a right to know. I pay the bill. Who was it?
Mrs. Laura Vere.
What's that old busybody want? She called from Chatham?
Uh-huh.
I wish I'd answered. I'd tell her where to head in.
Oh, Mrs. Vere is an educated, kind woman. She was Mother's best friend, and she was always nice to me. Or have you forgotten?
What'd she want?
She thanked me for writing to her.
You did? What about?
Mother's sudden death. I've written to her other friends, too.
Less said about it, the better.
I think she's coming up for a visit.
No, she isn't. I don't want to hear.
You don't have to see her. I will.
I thought you was going home. You got rid of all Min's clothes and her other junk.
I'll leave as soon as the movers have come and gone. The bedroom said I had as a girl. Mrs. Vere said Mother told her that I was to have it.
When did your mother say that? She ain't seen this stuck-up friend for years.
She saw her a few days ago. Mrs. Vere said Mother left a will.
Oh, yeah? That's news to me. A will? That's got to be read out by a lawyer. She couldn't afford that.
What about the dining room set? It's an antique and Mother wanted me to have it.
So you say.
You're selling the house and moving into...
Yeah? Moving into where? Go ahead, say it. I know what you're thinking. Now, I don't want to hear no more about Miss Vere and your mother's will when there isn't one. You grabbing this and that. Good night.
She described the suit I gave to Mother, the check suit. How could she know about that suit?
She couldn't. Your mother hadn't seen her for years.
Mother visited Mrs. Vere a few days ago.
Get out, Carol. Go home before I lose my temper.
Mrs. Vere swears she talked to Mother a few
Have
days
you
ago.
lost your mind? Your mother's been dead and buried for over 3 weeks. Let her rest in peace.
I don't see how she could.
As Samuel Johnson said to Boswell, it is still undecided whether or not there has ever been an instance of the spirit of any person appearing after death. All argument is against it, but all belief is for it. That may be the problem here. Did a woman 3 weeks dead visit a friend only a few days ago? We'll unravel the problem a little more when I return shortly.
True Value hardware stores think there should be 60 feet in every yard. So they're offering the True Test 60-foot vinyl garden hose for your yard for just $6.99. Hi, Pat Summerall with the details. It's 60 feet long to make it easier to water your lawn, trees, shrubs, garden, or even wash your car. It's nylon reinforced to withstand wear and tear. It stays flexible in all temperatures, strong in the hot sun. You can shut it off at the nozzle without fear of bursting. And its solid brass couplings won't rust. Get the True Test 60-foot nylon reinforced vinyl hose with 5/8-inch inside diameter for just $6.99. Or choose the True Test 60-foot rubber hose from True Value hardware stores. It's made of strong Flexoline rubber that coils easily at low temperatures. And it's reinforced for 575-pound burst strength. See the complete selection of True Test garden hoses exclusively at participating True Value hardware stores and home centers. True Value, more than just a name, their way of doing business.
Hey, there's something extra at a less on drugs. Hey, there's a lot more value at a less on drugs. Less on drugs, our prices make it feel good.
Hey, Waukegan, right now, one of the newest Les on Drug stores is celebrating its grand opening. Come in and meet Bob Dubin, your newest Les on pharmacist, and bring the kids. On June 25th at 10 a.m., Cookie the Clown from Bozo's Circus will be there, and there's lots more excitement at the grand opening, too, so don't miss it. The Les on Drug store grand opening celebration now through June 26th at 1412 Grand Avenue in Waukegan.
Less on drugs, our prices make it feel good. Less on drugs, our prices make it feel good.
It's possible to have a dream which is so vivid that you would swear it happened, or that you knew it would happen. That's why a person says to himself, I know that this has happened to me. I know I've been here before. Or, that face is very familiar. Mrs. Vere had a visit from her old acquaintance, Mrs. Wilkins. Or was it a visitation? It had to be the latter. But who could believe Mrs. Vere?
Laura, I really wish you wouldn't go up to Lowell.
I have to. Will you still drive me up?
I don't have a choice, do I? Besides, now that you've talked to Carol, I don't want you going into that house alone. Wilkins is sure to be ugly.
I am not afraid of Clyde Wilkins.
You'd better be.
Oh? Why?
If you still insist that me and Wilkins came to visit...
She did. I didn't dream it, Will.
And you saw an apparition. The woman was dead, Laura.
I suppose so. But I don't believe in ghosts.
Neither do I, but say it was a ghost. Why did it appear to you?
I don't know. Unless it appeared to tell me something.
What do you think that might be?
Well, a warning of some kind?
Perhaps that men didn't die a natural death.
Well,
I mean it.
Min was murdered?
Do you know what caused the death? Did Carol tell you?
No.
Clyde Wilkins is a mean, devious man.
Well, but he'd never commit murder.
You can't say that about anyone, my dear. Now, here's my point. If men... Now, don't interrupt, please. If men appeared to you, it was for a purpose.
Well, all right.
She invited you to visit in Lowell.
Right.
Where you'd become entangled with Wilkins.
Well, I'll just tell him about Min's visit.
He won't be as understanding as I am about what she said, Laura. That's why I'm going with you.
Will, you make me feel afraid.
Well, if Clyde murdered Min and you suspect him, you should be afraid. If he didn't, he'll still be abusive. Either way, it won't be a pleasant visit. That's why I'll ask Lem Regan to go with us.
Why a doctor?
And he's also the official police doctor. And he has a permit to carry a gun.
Well, I must say, Laura, it's about as strange a story as I've ever heard.
Lem, it's the truth.
Well, let's say it's the truth as you see it.
You doubt Min's appearance, Will?
Well, to be honest, and without meaning to offend my dear wife, of course. Don't you?
Well, I don't believe Min visited Laura because, realistically, it was impossible. Still, Laura insisted she did. And then there's the matter of the bequests.
I don't follow that.
Well, Laura's been very specific about them. What goes to this person and that, like that.
Well, maybe. But Laura's known Min all their lives. Laura's always liked that sideboard. And I'm sure she heard Min talk about what she wanted Carol to have.
A subconscious catalog of who gets what when she dies. Correction, now that Min is dead. You do agree with that, don't you, Laura?
That Min is dead? Yes. Carol said so. Now, say that Will is correct. No, I won't say it. I couldn't have known about that.
What?
Just skip it.
Have you remembered something else?
I'd rather not say.
Why not? It might be important.
I think it is.
Well, then...
No, I'll tell both of you later. For now, it's my secret.
Why are you being so mysterious?
Will, you've been indulging me, and Lem's just being polite. But he doesn't really believe that Min called on me. Well, you'll see. Both of you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll check the upstairs and the kitchen.
What was that all about?
You know something, Will? I'm convinced.
Well, I'm not. Nerves. Oh, she had a bad scallop.
No. Laura's in good health, and there isn't a bad scallop anywhere around here. No, I'm convinced of something else. Your theory.
If you accept the mad premise of the visit, it could make sense. You remember Clyde Wilkins? Not a trustworthy man. He could have murdered her.
If she was murdered. We don't know, but I think that Laura does.
Carol, my dear.
Hello, Mrs. Vere. Come in. He's not here.
Thank you for seeing me, Carol.
Oh, I'm so glad you telephoned and came up. I'm fascinated by what you told me. My father wasn't, of course.
What a nice house Min had.
Did you drive up alone?
No, Will drove me. And, Dr. Regan. You remember him from Chatham?
Oh, sure. Why didn't they come in?
Well, if your father had been...
Oh, I get it. Your troops.
Well, Will was afraid that...
Sure. Father would be sure to be nasty, but he wouldn't harm you.
Your father must think I'm deluded. Do you?
I don't know what to think. You can't have seen Mother in the past week.
Carol, I did. If you don't believe that, why did you permit me to come up?
Well, say it's because there's no way you could have known about that check suit. It was new. I bought it for her at Easter.
A patterned green check on gray wool with a pleated skirt and a jacket with small notched lapels.
That's it.
And a white blouse with a plunging neckline. Min looked very nice. You have very good taste, Carol.
And you saw her. You must have. May I ask what you talked about?
Well, your mother did the talking.
Was she sad?
Yes. Strange and... Yes, I thought she looked and sounded sad.
Oh, it's been hard for her. There's a neighbor... A widow.
Carol, let me ask you a question. Was your mother allergic to any kind of metal? Say, to gold?
Not that I know of.
Well, when she visited me, there was a red half circle around her neck. From a gold choker, she said.
A red half circle?
Angry looking. Can you explain it?
Not so you'll believe it, Mrs. Veer.
I am ready to believe anything. I even think I know what you're going to say. Did Min die an unnatural death, Carol?
She was murdered.
I thought so. Someone cut her throat.
Yes.
Your father?
I don't know. You didn't read about it? Oh, no, of course you didn't. We hushed it up as best we could. The verdict was suicide.
You don't believe that, Carol?
Oh, I'd like to, but no. Mother'd never do that, and that way. No. Someone murdered her.
If the police think that...
Oh, they asked a lot of questions, of course, and picked up one hoodlum for questioning.
The motive.
I know. My father and the neighbor woman, but I don't want to think that. He'd been a miserable husband to her, but murder, that's too much.
The widow could be one motive. And there's another, Carol.
What is it?
The will.
Oh, the bequest.
More than that.
Oh?
Much more than that. Now, I can't tell you until I've talked to my husband and to Dr. Regan.
Why not?
If your mother's secret became known, there could be more violence.
So you sneaked her in behind my back.
Your supper's on the kitchen table.
I told you I didn't want that Miss Via in my house.
How could I turn her away?
Easy. Tell her to go away.
Anything else? I'm leaving.
Did your movers strip the place?
I canceled them.
Is that so? Well, dandy. You don't want your bedroom set?
I don't want anything. I've seen the last of this prison and of you.
Dandy. That's gratitude.
Gratitude? You dare use that word after grinding Mother down to nothing, treating her like a poor relation, leading your double life?
Watch your mouth, Carol.
What? You'll take care of me, too?
Don't tempt me.
You admit it.
I admit nothing.
You murdered Mother.
You're a fool. Who put such a notion into your head? That busybody, Miss Via?
She saw the red half circle on Mother's neck.
She cut her own throat.
I don't believe it.
I don't care what you believe. Subject's closed.
Not if I have my way. Mother's will.
Oh, come off it. There is no will.
Yes, there is, and that's why. Night after night, you keep on searching the house from attic to cellar.
Go away, Carol.
And there's something else. Mrs. Veer said so. Some secret of Mother's.
What secret?
I don't know. She was afraid to tell me.
She'd better be. You tell that busybody if she ever shows up here again, I'll cut her throat.
I think you would. She knows that. That's why I think she'll go to the police.
Let her. She'll make a fool of herself.
Or have you arrested for murder.
Yeah, there's Laura, Will.
Oh, I see her. Evening, my dear.
Hello, dear. Did you have any luck?
Well, thanks to Lamb, we had an audience with the police commissioner. And it was an audience.
We explained that as friends of Min Wilkins, we had our doubts about her sudden death.
Did you tell him about her visit to me?
No, my dear. Even if Lamb and I are a little weak in the head and believe you, the commissioner never would. We skipped Min's visitation and talked hard facts.
What are they?
Well, on the 2nd of the month, Mrs. Wilkins was found in her kitchen with her throat cut.
Oh, who found her?
Clyde Wilkins.
Uh-huh, of course. Now, why didn't they arrest him?
Well, he has an alibi. He was at the Copper Penny Bar with a friend of his, Johnny Moe.
That doesn't mean anything. Now, when was she murdered?
Well, the police doctor places the time of death between 6 and 7 o'clock that night.
Uh-huh, so she was up and around. That's funny. Was there any sign of a struggle?
We asked that. No, there wasn't. The police are inclined to think that Min took her own life.
Well, I don't believe that.
I can't say I do either.
What strikes me as odd is why there were no signs of a struggle. Now, Min was awake and dressed. Where was her body found?
In the kitchen.
See, the person who murdered her must have been known to her. It wasn't a stranger. It had to be Clyde. He's a strong brute.
Yeah, I'd say Clyde, but the alibi
An alibi can be bought, Lem.
Yeah. Well, it's a muddle. It is. The police are letting it die down.
Well, I'm not. Now, there's something I know that I haven't told you.
Let's have it.
Min had a hiding place somewhere in the house. I know where it is because she told me. And I know what she had hidden. The will and a considerable amount of cash hidden with it.
Which Clyde wanted to get his hands on.
Lem, does Clyde Wilkins know you? Would he recognize you?
I don't know. I doubt it. He never was a patient of mine, and I grew his mustache a year ago, so why?
Are you willing to do something illegal?
Laura, what a thing to ask.
You stay out of this, Will. I want to trap the person who murdered my friend.
Well, I'm for that.
The hidden will and the money, those two things are what somebody's afraid will be found by me.
I said you'd be in danger if you didn't drop this fool investigation.
I know that. I admit that I was afraid about Clyde. Now it's Clyde and two others, Will. One of them murdered Min, and I want that person caught and charged.
We're following a trail which may lead to the person who murdered Minnie Wilkins. What's unusual is that the pursuer, Laura Veer, insists that Minnie visited her weeks after Minnie was dead and buried. Is that credible? Ours is an age of science, and we have dismissed the idea of ghosts. But legends persist, and perfectly normal persons have seen things, heard them, felt a chill wind in a closed room. So, we will go on with Act 3 shortly.
This is how it goes, Sal. Articulate as I am about other matters, like most people, I don't know about CB radio, so for everyone, I question General Electric. Their answers manifest indisputable evidence that GE is expert in CB. Listen to the words of John Casey, GE CB product planner. John has GECB, any features I won't find on every brand.
You bet, Howard. Many units have an antenna warning indicator that tells if you're transmitting enough power.
Several linebackers of my acquaintance could use that.
It also tells if your antenna's hooked up properly, and then there's our channel priority feature that monitors any channel you select, and our switchable automatic noise limiter.
Some might say I'd benefit from that. But seriously, John, that's some list. special features, another reason to buy GE CB. This is Howard Cosell saying GE, the name to buy in CB.
Northwest Federal presents some sound ideas for saving. Hear anything you like? You've just been listening to the sounds of some nice-sounding gifts. Gifts you can get free or for special low prices when you deposit $250 or more at any Northwest Federal Savings Center. You'll find everything from a nice-sounding pair of True Temper pruning shears to Sunbeam's Great American Popcorn Machine. Just to name a few of the over 30 gifts you should see and hear for yourself. Take advantage of this sound offer from Northwest Federal Savings. A sound place to save. Soon.
It's Northwest Federal Savings Time, 63 hours a week.
WBBM in Chicago.
What is a ghostly presence? Some say it's the thought shell of an earthbound mind. Or to simplify it, put it this way. It's a record left in the air, in space, by passions existing in the past. Some persons may have the ability to see apparitions to whom they appear and are very real. Some, like those who possess extrasensory perception, are receptive to those airborne passions existing in the past and can make them materialize. Well, so be it. That's what we're dealing with here. It is the next morning, and Dr. Lem Regan rings the doorbell of Clyde Wilkins' house.
Yeah? What you want?
Gas company. I come to read the meter.
Oh. Well, I'm just going off to work.
Oh, it won't take long.
All right, well, then come in and hurry it up.
I can close the door behind me.
No, none of that. I stay till you go.
Okay. The door to the basement.
There. Off this hallway. Haven't you been here before?
Oh, sure. The lady used to leave the downstairs basement door open, but it's locked, so I...
Okay, get it over with.
Hop in, Lem.
Duck down and get rid of that jacket, Lem.
All right. Oh.
Everything go all right?
Yeah, it worked perfectly.
You found the hiding place.
I'll never understand how you knew where it was, Laura, but I found it and planted your note. Now, what next?
Well, I think I know what's going to happen.
Not another visit from an apparition.
No, this is just common sense. You'll see. I want to get to a telephone and speak to Carol.
I hope she'll cooperate.
She will. You can bet your boots Carol wants her mother avenged.
Well?
Well, what?
I never thought I'd see you again.
I'd like to speak to you. Okay if I come in?
Come ahead.
Where's Miss Vere?
How should I know? Back in Chatham, I suppose. What do you want to know?
I wish you'd talk to her for me.
No way. You hate her.
No, I don't. I only said she's a busybody, and she is. But I got to find something out. She said there was a will. That your mother had some things written down about...
Bequests. Yes, you didn't believe her.
The old frump knows something.
What's so important about the will? Keep everything for yourself. Maybe the widow will want them.
There's money there, Carol.
Where?
Your mother squirreled away money somewhere in the house, probably where she hid the will.
So that's what you've been looking for. Not the will, the money. And you want Mrs. Vere to tell you where to look. That's the last thing she'd do.
She'd tell you?
Maybe she would. Or maybe she's already told the police.
Huh? What for?
It's an unsolved murder. But the police don't give up. They'll get the person who murdered Mother.
give you half the money, Carol.
Half of what? You don't even know if there is money or how much.
Min got a chunk from your grandfather. Maybe $7,500. And she hid away maybe another $2,500. You could use $5,000. So could I.
She wouldn't leave it to you.
The money's mine.
We'll see about that.
You won't even get into the house.
The police can.
Why do you keep bringing up the police?
Do you think they're satisfied that someone unknown murdered Mother?
Carol, look. Half the money. You can have all that broken down furniture. You call Miss Vere. There's cash money somewhere in the house.
Your dowry for the widow.
Oh, lay off. We're friends, is all.
Oh, it's nice to have one, isn't it?
You are a mighty bitter person. It's not natural.
I think the shoe's on the other foot. I care about the murder. You only care about that money. I hope it's never found.
I'll find it all right without any help from Vere or from you.
You remember Mr. Vere, dear?
Oh, of course. Hi, Mr. Vere.
How attractive you are. This is Dr. Regan.
Oh, of course. I remember the poison oak.
My goodness, that was many years ago.
Carol, please sit down.
Well, I wondered if I'd hear from you again, Mrs. Vere. You were so mysterious the last time we talked.
Yes, I was. It's dangerous to suggest that someone is a murderer.
I did tell my father you thought maybe he'd murdered my mother.
Someone did. We know that. I want to catch that person. But we need your help.
I'll do anything.
Now, you won't be in danger, Carol. Dr. Regan's a police official, and we've spoken to the police in Boston and in Lowell. We're cooperating with them.
My father has an alibi for the night of the murder. So has Johnny Moe.
Well, we know that, Carol, but somebody's guilty, and Mrs. Vere has worked out a scheme to trap whoever did it.
It was the money, wasn't it?
Yes, your mother hid a substantial amount of cash, and we know where it is. I know it's hard to believe, but your mother told me about the hiding place.
And I confirmed it this morning and left a note in the hiding place.
You did?
Now, Laura, from the beginning, tell Carol what we wanted to do.
I'm going to tell you where the money is hidden.
But that's just what my father wants to know. He came to see me this noon, and he wants me to talk to you about...
Of course. Now, listen carefully. Everything depends on you, Carol. You have to give a performance. Depending on how well you perform, we'll not only recover the money, we'll trap a killer.
Well, my unnatural daughter, I thought you never want to see me again.
I don't.
Then run along. I'm going out to eat.
You don't care about the money?
What's that? Come in. Well?
You wanted me to telephone Mrs. Vere.
You did? You come to your senses?
She said she'd tell me where the $10,000 are hidden if you'd make me a promise and keep it.
My word.
She doesn't think so.
What's the promise the old bat wants me to make?
Can I trust you?
What a question. I'm your father.
$10,000 is a big nest egg, and with the sale of the house...
What do you want? I already offered you half the money if we found it. You don't get no more.
I want your help to find out who murdered Mother.
What are you talking about? That's up to the police, and they've dropped the investigation.
Oh, no, they haven't. Someone who knew her smashed her on the head and cut her throat and left.
Johnny Moe and me was at the Copper Penny.
From what time on?
Well, you read it in the papers. What is all this? Why are you raking it all up?
Who got to the Copper Penny first? You and Johnny didn't come in together.
Well, so what?
Did you know that a neighbor of the widow's saw Johnny's car in her driveway around 5 o'clock?
That's a lie.
You don't know about the widow and Johnny? The handsome Johnny who's 10 years younger than you are?
That won't work, kid. Johnny was with me from 5:30 on. Now you listen to me. The widow's a good woman. I'm going to marry her.
You mean you're going to buy her? Why would she pick you when there's Johnny?
Watch it. You think you're smart. The education? Yes. But you're dumb, Carol. Real dumb. That slap in the face is nothing. You tell me where that money is or I'll wring your neck.
Not cut it.
Where's the money hidden? Tell me, or so help me.
All right. But I have to show you.
Tell me where it is. I can find it.
No, not until you promise to put up half the money as a reward to find the murderer.
You're crazy.
I mean it. Unless I tell you where it is, you'll never find it. And if you kill me, you'll never know.
Okay. 5,000 for the reward. I don't mind. Nobody'll ever collect it. Now, talk.
When he slapped Carol, I almost opened the door.
He's a dirty brute.
He'll break. You got your revolver, Lem?
Yeah, ready. There was a good guess about Johnny Moore. Oh, shh. Not a sound. Not a sound. They can't see us.
Oh, it's like a warehouse down here. Oh, there he is.
All right. Now, where's the hiding place? Come on.
Let go of my arm.
Yeah, look here, I don't break it. Where is it?
Lift down that box up there.
What? That's an old Christmas tree stand. Busted. Should have been thrown out years ago.
That's where the money is.
All right, I got it. Now, cut the string. An oilskin bag.
It's in there. Here, let me...
Keep your hands off. Look, Carol. The money.
What's that envelope?
Huh? Oh, she's written on it. For Carol. Birth certificates and will. Junk. Here.
How much is there?
Buckets. Wouldn't her old man spin in his grave if he saw me now? His money, and it's mine.
This envelope, it's got a note in it. To whom it may concern. I expect to die a violent death. Clyde, Johnny Moe, and the widow plan to kill me for this money. Clyde won't do it. He's yellow. It will be Johnny or the widow who does it. The one that don't have an alibi. Clyde is a dumb fool. The widow is Johnny's woman. They'll double-cross him.
Give me that! Don't move, Clyde.
What?
I'm a police official. Dr. Regan, hand over that piece of paper.
Laura, you
murdered Min.
No. No, honest, no. Me and Johnny...
Have alibis, and that leaves only one person who could have murdered Min. Your neighbor. The widow.
Was she? The note? How did me know?
The police have her in custody, Mr. Wilkins. And experts are searching her house and examining her clothing for bloodstains. You'd better talk.
The three of you conspired to commit this crime, and all of you will go to prison for life.
Thanks to an apparition. The apparition of Min Wilkins, who visited Mrs. Vere, who's now avenged her foul murder.
Perhaps in time, the three who conspired to murder Min Wilkins would have been apprehended. But passing time covers events with the dust of fading memories, and an unsolved murder would have been forgotten, except for that apparition. Min came back from the grave to arouse her friend Laura Vere. A story of the macabre. I'll return shortly.
Some vacation, huh, Margaret?
Right.
2 glorious weeks.
11 stuffy motels.
2,000 wonderful miles.
17 public restrooms.
A great trip.
Thanks to Lysol spray.
Summer means stuffy motels, public restrooms. Summer means it's time for Lysol spray. Lysol disinfectant spray kills germs other people leave on surfaces in public restrooms. Kills athlete's foot fungus on shower floors, too. And takes stuffy odors out of the air. Take Lysol along. Summer means it's time for Lysol spray.
Oh, I see a man working hard every day to educate her people to live a better way.
The United Negro College Fund has helped blacks fulfill their potential in walks of life where they couldn't walk before.
We want to give our best, please understand. Please understand. We're not asking for a handout, just a hand.
Give to the United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. A public service of this station and the Ad Council.
We've come full circle from the appearance of a specter to the arrest of a murderous trio because Laura Veer possessed information that was impossible for her to attain. How did she acquire it? Out of thin air. Say she was attuned to it. All we know is that Mrs. Veer was avenged. Our cast included Ann Petoniak, Robert Dryden, Catherine Byers, and Joe Silver. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. And now, a preview of our next tale.
Then I walked home. I mean, it's only a couple of blocks. You can ask Jerry.
Jerry? Jerry's a receiver for stolen goods, a fence, a dope pusher. He and Joe must have been together in one shady deal after another. How can you believe Jerry?
If there's anything I can do to help catch this wild animal...
Ah, shut up.
That killed that saint who was my wife.
You killed her. You killed her.
All right, Joe, that's all.
That's all.
You mean I can go?
Just be available for questioning in case you're needed.
He's walking out. You can't do that, Lieutenant. He's the killer. Don't let him get away with it. You can't. You can't.
Hey, Irma, what is it? What's the matter?
He's going to get away with it. He's going to get away with murder.
Irma, I can hear you screaming all the way out front. Get a hold of yourself.
He's getting away with murder.
Now, Irma, will you take it easy?
No. Now, he has to pay for it. Somebody has to make him pay for it.
Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by True Value Hardware Stores. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
This is WBBM in Chicago. At Midway, it's 74 degrees. The time is 11:23.
If you need a muffler, now you can Midas-size your car in over 800 Midas shops in the United States.
I got Midas-sized in Topeka, Kansas. It goes to prove you're never too old.
I got Midas-sized in Brooklyn, New York. Words alone cannot express my satisfaction.
Once we Midas-size your car, you'll never have to buy a muffler for it again. Because at Midas, if anything ever goes wrong, we guarantee to replace the muffler free for as long as you own your American-made car. Noisy muffler? Don't compromise. Midas-size at Midas.
I got Midas-sized in Waco, Texas. You never seen a muffler that size before.
The next time you hear that noise, don't compromise. Midas-size.
Visit one of the 42 Midas shops in the greater Chicago area. Midas, experts in the installation of mufflers on most foreign cars.
CBS News. A published report says the Carter administration has made a major policy review and has decided that the sale of American military technology to China would result in a sharp deterioration of ties between the United States and the Soviet Union. This is Doug Poling reporting on the CBS radio network. The report in Friday's editions of the New York Times says any such sales to China would stiffen Soviet positions toward the U.S. and increase tension between Moscow and Peking. The Times says it obtained a copy of the policy documents, which is stamped secret. The report also says among the items being sought from the U.S. by China are nuclear reactors, aircraft, and computers. On Thursday, the United States denied the sale of a sophisticated computer to the Soviet Union. The Russians said they wanted it for weather forecasting, but there fears it could have some military uses. James Bowe of Control Data, which makes the computer, says his company disagrees with that decision.
We believe the administration's decision is essentially political, rather than being based on sound technical grounds. It's not surprising in view of the recent, almost daily leaks of negative data from the supposedly classified report that the evaluation committee wrote.
Control Data's computer is known as Cyber 76. More news in a moment.
CBS Radio Mystery Theater presents... Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall, bringing you, hopefully, an enjoyable shudder. Certainly, fans of the occult like the dark and dangerous tales we spin because of the vicarious enjoyment that comes from the delicious shivers of the supernatural. But let me issue a warning to all you ghost lovers. Do not, I repeat, do not ever make the mistake of thinking that ghosts love you. Mrs. Mary Boyne and her husband did, and this tale tells what happened to them.
I stood at the library windows of the beautiful old house of Lynn and peered out in the gathering dusk, and I saw a figure. For a moment, a shudder ran through me. I thought I'd spotted the elusive ghost of Lynn, and when the figure entered the library, I died.
What's the trouble, Mary?
You believe it, Ned? I mistook you for our elusive ghost.
Oh, Mary. Mary, we've had a great marriage up till now, and my problem stems from America and not from any crazy old ghost. And if you'll forget the ghost, we'll all be a lot happier.
Our mystery drama, Afterward, was adapted from the Edith Wharton classic, especially for the Mystery Theater, by Murray Burnett, and stars Celeste Holm. It is sponsored in part by Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, Brewers of Budweiser, and all state insurance companies. I'll be back shortly with Act One.
Isn't it nice to know you're free? To see the things you want to see. To touch the heart you care to know you're all that can be.
You seem to be in a hurry, sir. You are in a hurry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no doubt you're rushing down to buy a Buick Electra because you know that Electra has the kind of ride and comfort Buick's famous for.
That's right.
And because you know it's America's second largest selling full-size luxury car.
You got it. You got
So you're hurrying because you want to get there before the Electras are all gone.
That's very good. How did you know I was going to buy a Buick Electra?
Well, it was on the shopping list you dropped out there. You see, dozen eggs, quart of milk, Buick Electra.
Son of a gun, I forgot the pistachio nut.
That's none of it, is?
Well, I forgot them anyhow.
Reach the northwest side of Chicago with a local want ad in the 16-grade Leader and Post newspapers. Whether you want to buy or sell, rent or hire, just call the Leader and Post and ask for an ad taker. Your ad in the Leader will reach thousands of people in outstanding communities like Cragen, Jefferson Park, Mayfair, Portage Park, and Belmont Central, just part of the many neighborhoods that the Leader newspapers cover. The Post serves Elmwood Park, Franklin Park, River Grove, and other outstanding northwest suburbs. Readers have learned that it pays to follow the Leader and read the Post. These newspapers have long been their voice for neighborhood progress. These readers respond to your want ads. So try one if you want to sell, buy, rent, or hire. So easy to do with the Leader and Post. Your ad will be taken over the phone and you'll be billed after the ad runs. Call the Leader and the Post today and ask for an ad taker. The number is 889-5200. 889-5200.
Remember the phrase, Kilroy was here, so popular back in the days of World War II? I feel certain most of you remember, but if we go back a few years farther, how many of you recall the phrase, the little man who wasn't there? What do all these phrases have to do with our tale? Well, stretching a point, we might say that our story concerns the ghost that wasn't there, or at least not when you expected him. If this sounds confusing, let's listen to the lady whose story it is.
My name is Mary Boyne. My address is Suite 357 in a Wood, Dorsetshire, England. Of course, I'm American and alone and sane. The reason I mention sanity is because they call this place a rest home, but actually it's a place for people who have money and who are supposed to be not quite right in the head. I told you I'm sane, but I must confess it's difficult to understand how I managed to retain my sanity after what happened. But you be the judge and jury. I'll start at the beginning, back in America, in the little town of Waukesha, and the little house where I lived happily with Ned. Ned, you're home early.
You bet. I'm not only home early, darling, but I'm home for good. I've sold the Blue Star Mine for $5 million.
Oh.
Mary, my love, are you all right?
Oh, yes, it's fine, darling, but you're joking.
Never more serious. We're finished with drudgery, darling. Finished living in this house, in this town, and don't even bother to pack. Let's just make our dream come true today.
I know that Americans are often impulsive, generous, and even, forgive me, sometimes a trifle foolish, but I must say, Mr. and Mrs. Boyne, you are something new in my experience as a realtor.
Well, is that a nice English way of saying you don't have a suitable house for us?
Not at all, Mr. Boyne.
Oh, please forgive my husband, Mrs. Stair, but our search for a house in England is the answer to what both he and I have always considered an impossible dream. You see, I was born in England, and I went to America as a child, and I've always wanted to return, and now we can.
Is it so strange that we want a house we ourselves can remodel and modernize?
No, that's understandable. But to be so far from any means of transportation.
Perhaps I should say that Ned and I are really looking for two things: to get away from our old lifestyle in America and to find our roots.
Yes, sir. I have a house that seems to be made to order for your specifications. It's been on the market for years because it needs so much remodeling, and it's 14 miles from the nearest rail station.
Great.
Let me finish. It was built in the time of the Tudors. Needs a tremendous amount of modernization, particularly in the matter of heating and hot water.
Sounds super to me. But how about a ghost, Mrs. Stair?
Oh, Dorsetshire's full of ghosts.
That's nice. But I did so want one of my own, right on the premises.
Mrs. Boyne, you shouldn't ask for anything like that. There is a traditional ghost that goes along with the house. Particularly nasty ghost. Also a rather strange one.
Strange? How so?
Because the history of the ghost of your house at Ling is that no one knows that they've seen a ghost until long afterward.
Well, that's crazy.
What in the world makes a ghost, except for the fact that you know when you see it?
It either moans or wears white shrouds or touches you with icy fingers.
The only thing I can tell you is that there are stories about the ghost of Ling, and every single one of them is identical. The person who sees the ghost doesn't know it's a ghost until afterward.
Oh, forget it, Mary. No. Life is too short to enjoy a ghost. You've got to wait to find out if it's a real ghost or not. No, but this house at Ling seems to have so much else going for it. Darling, I think we really should take a look at it.
We went, we looked, and we were conquered. Both Ned and I fell instantly in love with Ling. It was a lovely old Tudor house, just as the agent had described it. Exactly what we both dreamed of, and it was definitely secluded. We bought it and moved in. But although I was in seventh heaven and up to my ears in planning for remodeling the old house, there was something definitely wrong with Ned.
Oh, these powders don't do a thing for my headaches.
Well, the doctor said...
I know what the doctor said, darling, and I followed his prescription, but I still have the headaches.
Darling, do you think perhaps we've made a mistake about this house?
No, Ling is perfect. Perfect. We both knew it the moment we saw it. The gardens are a delight, and under your tender, loving care, grow more beautiful every day.
Oh, with Hilton's great help.
Nonsense. No, Hilton is a good gardener, darling, but he hasn't your green thumb. No, my love. The house is perfect, and there's absolutely nothing wrong. These headaches will go away in time.
So you're not going to tell me?
Dear heart, there is nothing to tell.
But I knew better. Something was very wrong, and I intended to find out what it was. Lydia Westlake was the village librarian and had been ever since the oldest inhabitant could remember.
Well, Mrs. Boyne, what a pleasure. Is there anything I can do for you?
Miss Westlake, I really must apologize for not coming to see you and this lovely old library before.
Oh, my dear, no apologies necessary. Everyone in town knows how busy you've been patching up Ling.
Well, that's one reason I'm here. To ask if you have any books about the history of Ling.
Ah, you mean about the architecture?
Not exactly. Everything. Maybe even something about the ghost.
Well, I really shouldn't say this, but it's best for everyone to try to forget about the Ling ghost. Oh, believe me.
Oh, I believe you, Miss Westlake, but I'm still interested in everything about Ling.
Well, very well. You'll find some books on the history of Ling under G226.
There were 3 books. I took them all and went back to Ling and started to read. 2 incidents mentioned the Ling ghost, and they were absolutely horrifying. What I hadn't told the librarian was that I wanted to find out more about the ghost because of the way Ned was acting.
Who the devil is it?
Well, it's me, darling.
I'm sorry, Mary. It's just that I'm sorry.
Have the servants been interrupting you?
No. Oh, gosh, we've never kept secrets from each other. It's my consultation work with the Blue Star Mine back in the States.
But why in the world should that be so disturbing?
Well, there were some problems I hadn't expected.
But I've never seen you like this. Is there any chance we'll have to go back to America?
No. It's nothing like that. It's just that there's a troublemaker who's after me. Darling, tell me how you're coming with the house and your research on the ghost.
I don't want to hear anything more about that ghost.
Oh, why this sudden about-face?
I just don't, that's all. Let's make a pact. You stop worrying, and I'll stop talking about the ghost. The pact didn't work. Oh, how I wish it had. Perhaps things would not have turned out the way they did. If we had left Ling, and I had listened to my presentiment about the Ling ghost, Ned grew more irritable, and I ever more frightened.
What's the matter with those fools back in Waukesha? They can't handle the simplest matters without asking me a million questions.
Ned, why don't you give up the consulting job? We don't really need it. I mean, do we?
No, not the money, but in a way we do need it.
I don't understand.
Well, it's a complicated business, Mary, involving lawyers and a lot of legal matters that would only bore you.
Bore me? I'd rather be bored or sad or anything. If only I could see you more relaxed.
Well, you will, darling. It'll just take a little time.
Time for what?
Well, I have problems with the Blue Star. So, Look, why don't you bring me up to date on your ghost, huh?
Oh, Ned, because I'm frightened. I read a story in one of those books I took from the library about the young wife of the son of the man who built Ling.
Uh-huh. And what about it?
Well, it seems she had fallen madly in love with one of the men here before she met the Ling's son. And, oh, Ned, must I?
Oh, please, darling. It can't be all that shocking now in this day and age.
Well, she disposed of an unwanted child and kept it a secret.
Oh?
Some years later, after she was happily married and had a little girl of her own, she was out strolling through these gardens one day when she met an absolutely enchanting young girl, just about her daughter's age. They all hit it off very well, and soon the three became friends. The only thing was that they couldn't ever figure out where this enchanting child lived or who were her parents. And this began to worry the young mistress of Ling, until one day her daughter disappeared and was never found or seen again.
Well, I don't understand.
Don't you? The mother did. She had seen the ghost of Ling, her daughter's little friend. The ghost was the illegitimate child she'd killed. Only she didn't know till afterward.
I'm sorry, Mary, for making you tell me that story.
It's all right. There's more in those old books. There's something about a secret staircase.
Oh?
I should be able to locate it. You get a marvelous bird's eye view of the entire country.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Why don't you help me search for it?
Can't. I have to work on my correspondence, but if and when you find it, give me a shout. I'll be in the library.
I set off on another exploration of Ling, but this time with a purpose. And finally, just like a heroine in some Gothic novel, I pressed a panel of the old wainscoting in one of the rooms, and it slid back, revealing a small circular flight of stairs leading upward. I climbed the tiny corkscrew staircase to the roof of Ling. Oh, the book hadn't exaggerated the beauty of the view. I called excitedly down the stairs, Ned! Ned! I found it, and it's beautiful. Come up here and see.
Wow. Oh, darling, this is really something. Why, you can see for miles. How did you find it?
Just followed the directions in the book. Went around pressing the paneling, and suddenly there it was, the staircase. Just look. Of course, I know you can see farther than I can.
Oh, but, darling, your eyes are more beautiful. Well, hello. Now, who's that?
Who? Where?
Well, can't you see that man coming towards the house? I've got to go down and see who it is.
Ned! Ned! Wait for me! There you are, darling. I've been looking all over for you.
Well, I've been right here in the library.
Well, you dashed off that roof and went running out the front door. Who was it?
Who was what?
The man you saw coming toward you in the garden.
Oh, that man. Well, you see, dear, I thought I saw the gardener, and I ran after him to tell him about some of the drains which need tending. But, you see, he'd disappeared before I reached him.
Disappeared?
Mm-hmm.
But he seemed to be walking so slowly and toward the house, not away from it.
Well, that's the way it seemed to me, too. But I guess we must have been wrong. Unless it could have been the ghost.
Now, we all know there are no such things as ghosts, or at least some of us know. But one thing we would all agree upon is that if there really are ghosts, they won't go away even if you don't mention them. I'll be back shortly with more mention and more answers to the mysterious ghost of Ling.
Give your hand to a friend. Give your heart to your love. Give your phone to contact.
Two cold medicines. Choose. The green liquid you take every 4 hours when confined to home or at bedtime. That's 4 hours relief per dose. Or give your cold a contact. Contact's different. Just one capsule works up to 12 hours, all through the day and all through the night. Contact doesn't have ingredients for pain and cough like the liquid. And just one Contact gives you as long relief from sneezing, drips, and congestion as 3 doses of the liquid. The tiny time pills do it. Now, for all day and all night relief, what'll you choose? Stay home with your cold or take Contact?
Give your cold to Contact.
Use only as directed.
To Contact, give your cold.
Attention all new car buyers, if you want to really save on your new auto loan, go to Skokie Trust and Savings Bank. There you will find the low rate of 8 6/10% annual percentage on all new 1976 auto loans. And that 8 6/10% rate is for both domestic and foreign cars. And you'll discover that Skokie Trust saves you time, too, with minimum delay and prompt service in approving your loan. In fact, you can call Skokie Trust in the morning and be driving your new car that night. So if you're in the market for a new car, make your first stop at Skokie Trust. That's where you get more money mileage with a low 8 6/10% auto loan rate. At Skokie Trust and Savings Bank, 4400 Oakton in Skokie. It's a full-service bank and member FDIC. This is WBBM Chicago.
Institutions for the mentally ill have come a long way. They are quite beautiful and often look like an ideal retirement home, even on the inside where everyone wears a smile. It takes an expert to be able to see some of the anguish that lies behind the smile, like the pain that continually racks Mary Boyne.
None of the staff nor the guests at Innerwood Rest Home can understand why I hate to hear the sound of the postman's whistle when he comes with the mail. They think it's because I have no one who cares enough to write to me. Well, it's true that I have no one, but the reason I dread the postman's whistle is because if it weren't for the postman and the mail and... There I am, confusing you again. But it all relates to one arrival of the mail at Ling.
Oh, this is from old Joe Sitwell asking how we are, and this one's for you.
I'm so glad there are no letters to disturb you. What's this?
Let me see.
It's a newspaper clipping. Front page article from the Waukesha Sentinel.
Oh?
It says that a man named Elwell has brought a lawsuit against you. That there was something wrong about the Blue Star mine. I haven't read it all, but...
Darling, you wouldn't understand more than half of it, even if you finished.
Well, maybe not. But now I understand what it is that's been bothering you.
No, it's really nothing, darling.
Nothing? On the front page of the Sentinel? Ned, what's this all about?
Oh, now why don't we have some tea first?
This lawsuit isn't new to you.
No, of course not. I've known about it for some time.
Of course you have, and you've been having sleepless nights and headaches for some time. What does this man accuse you of?
Oh, pretty nearly everything he could dream up.
Why? Why would a man do that?
Oh, because he figures he can make some money.
Surely he must have some reason. There must be something he thinks you've done.
All right, darling, I'll tell you the whole story. Mary, dear, you must know that whenever a fortune is made overnight, there are always some envious people who believe they deserve a share of the windfall, and that's exactly what Elwell thinks.
Who is Elwell? I don't know that name.
Well, he's a man I put into the Blue Star. He made some money, and now he wants more.
How did you put him into it?
Well, he brought me the samples to be assayed, and, well, I told you about it at the time, but I didn't make a big deal out of it in case they proved to be worthless.
I think But if everything is the way you say, and you paid him...
Well, of course I paid him.
Well, then why does he sue you now?
Oh, well, probably because some lawyer got hold of him and talked him into it, hoping for a fat fee. Or maybe he thought I'd get scared. Now, Bob Elwell ought to have known me better than that.
I certainly agreed with that. Anyone did business with Ned would know he wasn't the sort to be frightened of anything. But there was no question that he was worried. And I was hardly surprised when he turned to me one night and said...
Darling, have you any idea how long it's supposed to be before you know whether or not you've seen the Ling ghost?
Why, no. None. Have you?
No, of course not.
It's rather an odd question to ask me, darling, unless you think You have seen the ghost.
Well, I really don't know why I asked the question. It just popped into my head, and so I asked it.
I know your engineer's mind, Ned. And I know how it worries about a problem until you've solved it. Now, I want you to tell me something on your solemn word of honor. Promise.
Okay, my word of honor.
That you believe you have seen the Ling ghost, and that you're trying to keep it from me, and that's what's worrying you?
Cross my heart, darling. I don't think I've seen the Ling ghost. At least, not to my knowledge, because according to the ancient tradition, one really doesn't know when he's seen the ghost.
And with that, I had to be satisfied. I knew my husband. There was no more to be gained from questioning him. But I thought to myself, maybe there was something to be gained from questioning the ghost. That is, if I could manage to locate the elusive spirit. Of course, I knew that you weren't supposed to be able to know you'd seen the ghost, but I was haunted by the idea of the disappearing figure we'd seen from the rooftop. So once again, I climbed the small secret stairway and stood on the roof ledge. I cupped my hands and shouted to the sky, "Oh, spirit, specter, shadow, whatever you choose to call yourself, we've done you no harm. We want to live here in peace. Oh, ghost of Ling, break with the past, break with tradition, and show yourself to me."
Mary, what on earth do you think you're doing?
That's obvious, isn't it, darling?
Well, if you mean you're making a darn fool of yourself, and incidentally of me, yes.
Well, I'm sorry if I was stupid.
It isn't stupidity, Mary. It's just this obsession of yours with a ghost. You're only adding to my worries.
I don't want that. You know I don't want that.
Well, then maybe we should leave Ling.
Oh, but I love this house, and so do you.
Well, but I think there's something else we have to do, and let's get right on with it.
Ned was just trying to help me, like the staff here at Innerwood. And he thought maybe by arranging a seance with a reputable and respected medium might put my mind at rest. Ned thought that perhaps the medium might be able to get through and reach the ghost.
Now, you both understand that as a man of integrity, I can promise you nothing?
Yes, Mr. Woods, you've already made that very clear.
It is difficult to overemphasize the possibility of failure.
Can we start, please?
Please be patient, Mrs. Boyne. All the research I have done on the ghost of Ling seems to bear out the tradition. He or she appears, and only afterwards do the people realize they have made contact with the ghost.
Yes, we know all that, but isn't it also true that there's never been an attempt to reach this ghost through a reputable medium?
That is so.
Well, that's why we came to you. I want to find out if there is a ghost of Ling, and if there is, you should be able to reach him.
I should, but as I said...
Please, let's not go through all that again. Let's hope you will succeed.
Right. Now, this is our first seance.
Well, I'm afraid it is very much like what you have read in books and heard about. We will keep this room dimly candlelit, just as it is now. And so, I ask you to join hands with me. That is it. Now, close your eyes and concentrate.
On what?
On the ghost.
But I want...
Just think of the ghost, Mrs. Boyne. If there is any communication, it must come through me.
Is that all? Is it over now?
It is over, yes.
Well, you said you might fail.
I did not fail.
But we didn't see or hear a thing. Did you, Ned?
Nothing.
I pierced the veil. I reached my control.
Well, then what...
You said you thought I was an expert. And I believe I convinced you that I am not a fake.
Well, okay, but if you reach...
Let me assure you that there is no spirit, no ghost, happy or unhappy, inhabiting these premises at Ling.
Ned, tell me, did you believe Mr. Woods?
Well,
darling. He's supposed to be the best, and he said there definitely wasn't any ghost at Ling.
Hey, something's happened to you.
What?
It's happened since the seance.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You're different.
Oh, come on, Mary.
Maybe something did happen at that seance.
What?
I mean, those drawn lines in your face have disappeared. Smiles come back into your eyes. You slept better last night. Come on, admit it.
All right, I admit that, but it has nothing to do with the seance.
Well, then what caused the change?
Well, perhaps it was a cable I received yesterday saying that I could probably expect some very good news about that Elwell suit very shortly.
Then it was the lawsuit that bothered you after all.
Yeah, well, yes, perhaps more than I knew. Well, at any rate, we'll find out with tomorrow's mail.
Has the mail come yet?
No, not yet, darling. Anyway, I thought you were going to be all taken up with that engineer from Dorsetshire who's going to show us how to install a hot water system.
Well, I'm looking forward to his visit, but I remember what you said about the mail.
Oh, there's the postman now, dear. Here, let me beat you to it, Mary.
We'll go together.
All right. Here we are. Oh, airmail special from Waukesha.
What does it say? Open it.
All right. Good news, darling.
You mean you've won? You've won the lawsuit?
Oh, the suit's been withdrawn, so there's nothing to worry about.
Then everything's all right.
Oh, couldn't be righter. Now, how about giving me a kiss, and you go wait for that engineer.
One of the strangest things I remember was my total sense of security as Ned held me in his arms. I left Ned and walked out into the gardens. Oh, the day was beautiful, but seemed even brighter than it actually was because of the change in Ned. As I walked along the flagstones, I heard footsteps behind me. I stopped and turned.
I came to see Mr. Boyne.
I'm Mrs. Boyne. Do you have an appointment with my husband?
I think he expects me.
Well, he's working on a book, so he never sees anyone in the morning.
Oh.
Wait. You seem tired. Have you come a long way?
Yes, I have come a long way.
Well, then I suppose if you'll go to the house, my husband will see you. You'll find him in the library. It's that way. I watched the stranger enter the house, and then I went to find the gardener, and soon the engineer arrived. And the morning just sped by. We'd finished with the plans for the hot water system, and it was time for lunch. I went to the dining room, but Ned wasn't at the table. Nor was he in the library. I remember calling, and then asking the servants whether they'd seen him. But Ned was nowhere to be found. Not at the luncheon, not in the garden, not in the house. He didn't come back that afternoon, nor was he there for dinner. By that time, I was frantic and called the police. The local police shook their heads and called in Scotland Yard.
Now, Mrs. Bourne, I can only try to reassure you by telling you that we haven't found your husband's body.
Well, that's very reassuring, Inspector. You're telling me my husband has just disappeared into thin air, vanished without a trace?
Oh, no, ma'am. What I'm trying to say is that if there was any foul play, and in these cases sometimes there is, we usually find the body of the dead man within 48 hours. So perhaps I was clumsy, but I was trying to tell you that there is hope that Mr. Boyne is alive.
Well, then where is he?
Oh, of course, I can't answer that question for you at this time. But I promise you, Mrs. Boyne, all the resources of Scotland Yard will be employed to find him for you.
I must admit the inspector kept his word and also kept my hopes alive. The yard kept me up to date on every development. But alas, they were so pitifully few, they did nothing to nourish my hope that my darling Ned would soon come back to me.
All the resources of Scotland Yard, will they prove to be as ineffective as all the king's men and all the king's horses in putting Humpty Dumpty together again? Or will they come up with some strange and sinister solution to the disappearance of Ned Boyne? I'll be back with the answers shortly.
Allstate asks, do you own a small business? Go over these questions with your present group health and life insurance agent. If your agent doesn't say yes to every one, then talk to the Good Hands people. question. Does your present group plan cover all x-rays and lab tests other than in routine physical exams? If not,
talk to the good hands people.
Does your present group plan provide disability income protection to help replace your employees' paychecks and yours? If not,
talk to the good hands people. You're in good hands with Allstate.
see your Allstate agent to find out what an Allstate plan costs, what is and isn't covered, including benefit reductions and terms under which insurance continues in force. Allstate Insurance Companies, available in most states to businesses that qualify.
These radio mysteries are great for keeping you guessing. But there's no mystery about going to Northwest Federal Savings to get the highest interest rates possible. And you know you'll get the best help possible from neighborhood people who work there. For 50 years, Northwest Federal Savings has been helping people save for a new home, retirement, or for peace of mind. And today there's a variety of savings plans, from the regular 5 3/4% passbook savings account to the full 7 3/4% savings certificate. Of course, there's a substantial penalty for early withdrawal from savings certificates. Saving at Northwest Federal Savings is a great way to invest in your future without guesswork. So visit Northwest Federal Savings anytime. Irving Park west of Cicero, in Des Plaines, Norridge, and now Arlington Heights at Algonquin and Gulf Roads. Remember, they're open 63 hours a week.
It's Northwest Federal Savings time, 63 hours a week.
The disappearance of husbands is usually regarded by most police as a mystery with fairly obvious solutions. Most commonly, the police look for the runaway mate who's been unable to cope with a nagging wife, or secondarily, a woman who has decided to strike out looking for a new mate by disposing of the old one. Of course, neither of these theories was even entertained for a moment by Scotland Yard in the case of the disappearance of Ned Boyne.
Now, Mrs. Boyne, we all know what a good marriage you and Mr. Boyne had, but we're momentarily at a loss.
A man just doesn't vanish off the face of the earth.
Not without leaving clues. Something that will help us find him. Now, if you don't mind, we'll just go back once more over the way you found out he was gone.
I spent most of the morning with a Mr. Loomis, an engineer from Dorsetshire, going over some plans he had for installing a hot water system.
If you don't mind, I'd like to get to the stranger who asked for your husband.
Well, I've told you everything I know about him.
And told it well, Ma'am. A good description. Much better than we got from Nellie, the housemaid.
She saw him, too?
Oh, yes, indeed. We even found out that he wrote his name on a card he gave her.
Well, then you should know.
If I may, Ma'am, let me just condense the maid's testimony from my notes here. Now, she said that the gentleman was a stranger and perhaps a foreigner. He asked for Mr. Boyne, and she asked who was calling, and then he wrote his name on a piece of paper and asked her to carry it into your husband.
Well, didn't you ask her what Ned, my husband, said when she brought him the paper?
Well, Nellie told us your husband didn't have time to say anything, because just as she handed the paper to Mr. Boyne, she realized that the stranger had followed her into the library. She left them together.
If Nellie says that she left this stranger alone in the library with my husband, how can we be so sure that Ned left the house?
It isn't the maid's evidence we're going by, Ma'am. Hilton, the gardener, swears he saw your husband leave the house by the front door, accompanied by a gentleman. And he gives a description which pretty much tallies with yours and Nellie's.
But why? Why would Ned just go off like that without a word to me or to anyone?
You've already said your husband has been worried. So if you could give us some clue as to what it was that was bothering him.
Well, I've told you about that lawsuit back in America.
But you didn't tell us about the seance and your attempts to locate the Ling ghost.
Now, surely, Inspector, you're not going to tell me that Scotland Yard is taking ghost stories seriously.
Oh, no, Ma'am. But if Mr. Boyne did, it might be some explanation of his erratic behavior.
Are you telling me that you think my husband was mentally ill?
Well, now, Ma'am, we need something to explain a happily married, wealthy man walking off in the middle of the morning, accompanied by a stranger, and so far leaving no trace.
Well, what about that unfinished letter you found in the library?
Obviously had to do with that business in America, which you, Mum, assured us wasn't bothering your husband one bit.
But he did write the word safer, didn't he? Who was Parvis?
Now we've checked, and Mr. Parvis is a perfectly respectable attorney back in Waukesha. And your husband's unfinished letter simply reads, "My dear Parvis, I have just received your letter announcing Elwell's death, and while I suppose there is now no farther risk of trouble, it might be safer..."
There. He says trouble, doesn't he?
Oh, he does indeed. And you believe that trouble could be so serious as to make him disappear without a word to you about it? Or the reason for leaving? Oh, no, we just can't believe that, Mrs. Boyne.
Then what do you believe? I mean, what has happened?
Mrs. Boyne, has your husband ever suffered from amnesia?
Never.
Does he have any medical history you could tell us about?
Ned was always healthy.
Well, England is a hard place to get lost in, Mum. It's almost impossible for two men to slip unnoticed through or out of the country.
How about just walking?
Mrs. Boyne, we have every official means of investigation working, and we've found nothing.
And so things remained at a stalemate for the next fortnight, despite the fact that my husband's name was headlined in every newspaper and his likeness looked down into my anguished eyes from the walls of every town and village. There was still not one single word of him, and no trace of his movements. And then one morning, Nellie brought a card to me in the library with the name Edward Parvis on it, and a new hope flooded my heart.
Mrs. Boyne?
Mr. Parvis, from Waukesha. You're the attorney my husband wrote to.
Yes, I found myself here in England, and I thought I should visit you.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. You've heard, of course, of my husband's disappearance, and I'm hoping that you've come to shed some light on it.
Well, I'm afraid you're in for a disappointment. My errand is of quite a different nature.
But his last unfinished letter was to you. I mean, surely...
Mrs. Boyne, is it possible you're unaware of what went on back at Waukesha?
Oh, my husband and I were very close. We had no secrets from each other.
Well, I'm wondering what you mean to do about Bob Elwell's family.
Bob Elwell's family? I'm completely confused. I don't know them. Mr. Parvis, you must bear with me. I do need your help.
And I'm almost beginning to believe you. First of all, Bob Elwell is dead. His wife's a proud woman, and she fought on as long as he could. It's come out now how badly off the family is, and we're taking up a fund for her.
Elwell? Wait. That was the man Ned told me had helped him with the Blue Star.
That's what he told you, is it?
Well, it's true, isn't it?
Well, it's true, and yet well, all I can say is that it was business.
I don't understand at all.
Bob Elwell just wasn't smart enough, let's put it that way. It's the kind of thing that happens every day in business.
Mr. Parvis, I think you're trying to tell me nicely that my husband did something dishonorable.
I don't want you getting the wrong idea about Ned. He committed no crime.
What exactly did he do?
He went into business with Bob Elwell, and Bob should have been more careful about what he signed.
Why don't you come right out and say that Bob Elwell should never have trusted Ned?
Well, it was Elwell's claim that he came to Ned with the first samples from the Blue Star. You see, the Blue Star had been started and then abandoned. And Elwell believed there was a chance the previous owners had quit too soon.
But he came to my husband with this sample.
That's right. And your husband assayed. They both wanted to keep the whole thing quiet, because if there was any chance the Blue Star was still worth something, well, I don't have to tell you what that would have meant.
And Ned decided that the Blue Star was still a gold mine.
Right. Your husband and Elwell had to buy the Blue Star.
They bought it together?
They did. Elwell borrowed most of the money he put up to purchase the mine.
Well, so far that all seems pretty straightforward.
Uh-huh. Ned had the papers drawn up, and Elwell, well, he should have read them more carefully.
Why? What did the papers say?
that after Elwell had been paid back for the money he'd invested and received a profit of 5%, the entire ownership of the Blue Star reverted to Ned.
Oh, no.
Well, it was business, Mrs. Boyne. Elwell didn't have to sign it.
Well, evidently his lawyers felt that there was some merit to his claim when he sued Ned recently.
Well, they soon found out they didn't have a leg to stand on.
But if Elwell was so badly off, where did he find the money to hire lawyers?
A lot of people thought Elwell had been treated badly, and his lawyer was one of them.
You mean they took the case for nothing?
On a contingency basis. But when they saw they didn't have a case, they advised Elwell to withdraw the suit. Elwell became despondent and shot himself.
Shot himself? He killed himself because of that?
Well, he didn't kill himself exactly. He dragged on 2 months before he died.
And he tried to kill himself and failed? And then tried again?
No, he didn't have to try again. Well, the newspapers got hold of it, and it's all been raked up again, and this collection thing's been started. You know, most of us back in Waukesha like Bob Elwell. Here's an account of the whole thing from the Sentinel. Maybe it would help you if you looked it over.
From the headline, it would seem the Sentinel knows who's to blame. Widow of Ned Boyne's victim forced to appeal for aid.
And I thought maybe you might care to...
This picture! This picture! It says this is Robert Elwell.
Yes, it is.
But this is the man who came for my husband. I mean, I'd know him anywhere.
Mrs. Boyne, I don't think you're very well. Shall I call somebody?
No, this is Robert Elwell. This is the man who spoke to me in the garden.
That can't be the man. It's Robert Elwell.
It was Robert Elwell who came for him.
Came for Ned? Elwell was dead. You know that now, don't you?
Robert Elwell came for him.
No, Mrs. Boyne. Well, surely you remember your husband's unfinished letter to me. It was written after he'd heard of Elwell's death.
Robert Elwell was the man who spoke to me.
That's impossible.
You think I'm mad? I'm not. I'm quite sane. Will you answer me one question, please? When did Robert Elwell try to kill himself?
When?
Yes, the date. And please try to remember.
I don't think we should continue this conversation, Mrs. Boyne.
I have a reason for asking.
I'm sure you have, but... Well, I really can't remember. I'd guess about 2 months before he actually died.
I need the exact date.
We might find it in the paper here. Yes, here it is. Last October.
The 20th, wasn't it?
Yeah, the 20th. Then you did know about Elwell all the time.
I know now. Sunday, the 20th. That was the day he came here first.
Came here first?
Yes.
You saw him twice, then?
Yes, twice. First on the 20th of October. I remember because that was the day I first discovered the secret staircase, and we saw him from the roof. He was dressed just as he is in the picture in the newspaper. My husband saw him first. He was frightened and ran down ahead of me, but there was no one there. He had vanished.
You say Elwell vanished?
Yes. I see now what happened. He tried to come then, but he wasn't really dead. He couldn't reach us. He had to wait 2 months to die, and then he came back again, and Ned went with him. Oh, good Lord. I sent him to Ned. I told him where to go. I sent him to this room.
That's what they say about the Ling ghost. One never really knows that he's seen the ghost till afterward. Long afterward.
All the doctors at the rest home where they're treating Mrs. Mary Boyne are convinced that she's suffering from an almost historic sense of loss and bereavement because of the inexplicable disappearance of her husband. They're also all convinced that if only they could furnish her with a satisfactory explanation of that disappearance, she would be cured. But of course, we know better. At least, we who believe know that it's the explanation rather than the disappearance that's the root of her trouble. I'll be back in a moment.
When you say but, you've said a lot of things nobody else can say.
A lot of things, like Beechwood aging for 100% natural carbonation. That's how the Budweiser people age their beer. Nobody else does it that special way. But then, nobody else is brewing the king of beers. I could tell you a lot of other things about Budweiser and why it's the largest selling beer in the world. But it all comes back to the Budweiser taste, and that speaks for itself, loud and clear. Hear it talking?
There is no other one. There's only something less. Because the king of beer is leading all the rest. When you say Budweiser, you've said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis.
And now, the shortest ghost story in the world. The long, dark, memory-filled corridors of one of the great art museums of the world just before closing time. A man hastens to the exit. He's joined by another art lover. The first man says, "Hey, it's pretty spooky around here at this hour." "Yes," says the second man. "Do you believe in ghosts?" "No," says the first man. "Do you?" "Yes," replies the second, and vanishes. Our cast included Celeste Holm, Larry Haynes, Joan Shea, Guy Sorrell, and Ian Martin. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. And now, a preview of our next tale.
Why did you allow her to leave so early?
You and I have to talk.
Well, whatever we say would be beyond her.
Yes, if she's Group 3.
Turn? How could Turn be an inspector?
I suspect her because she's too perfect. Too absolutely Group 3.
But suppose she is an inspector. What have you and I ever said to each other that's reportable?
I am head of repair. You are admiral of the fleet. And we are about to be disenfranchised.
Why?
Corral cannot qualify for Group 1. He will fail the examination.
But you took him to repair yourself. He was judged in perfect balance.
Oh, yes. Because he was examined by a single practitioner, and I was present.
Do you think she's out of balance?
Oh, I know it. He's one of those.
I refuse to believe that.
You refuse to accept it.
Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Contact, the 12-hour cold capsule, and Buick Motor Division. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
WBBM News Times, 11:34. This is WBBM Chicago.